What's up, everybody? It's 13 with Superior Mobile by 13, and this is an end of a legacy here for me. This is a 1954 Chevy truck that has been in my shop for way too long. I've been working on it around the other jobs. Basically, this thing has a long, sad history of a shop that didn't do their job, put a brand new motor in this thing, and then let it sit outside for multiple years, never having run. So it ended up in my possession so that I could get a wiring harness installed, and I installed, for the record, it's the American Autowire kit. So bumper to bumper wiring on this thing is 100% done by me. Every piece of copper in this truck I put here over the span of several months. So starting at the beginning, we have the Dakota Digital brain and also the fuse panel. Absolutely every piece of wiring that I installed in this vehicle is wrapped in tesa tape by hand, so that's your high beam switch right there. Now I'd like to go on a side note and say that this truck has a lot of potential to become something beautiful someday, and my intention while wiring this was thinking at the caliber that it should be and can be in the right hands. So unfortunately in the past, what ended up happening is some dude thought that this type of work was acceptable. What would have been appropriate is to use steel and actually weld in a new pan. But this is what I got, so this is what I was working with, and I'd really like to point out this like mystery hole there. I don't know if that's for dumping urine or drugs. Anyway, more to the point is that my work is exceptional on this truck and I'm very proud of it, so that's what I'm gonna show off. So part of doing all of the electrical is that of course we have brand new gauges. These are from Dakota Digital. I also ended up having to completely redo the AC system in this thing. So it was installed prior to me, but unfortunately was not done correctly in it, so I had to redo all of that. Also didn't even have an ignition cylinder key in there, so I installed that. I also installed the glove box in this thing, although there's no actual glove box back there, but that didn't even exist before me, and then also got the ashtray in here. So I just did a bunch of little things too, but ultimately still focusing on electrical. Let's get out of this interior here, and I'm gonna show you some under the hood action. Ta-da! So like I said, this is that brand new engine that's never been run before, and it is of course covered in rust and corrosion, which is super sad. But I did all of the wiring on it, so you can see there are sensors that I installed. That's our coolant temperature right there, and that's my alternator feed right there. There's the distributor in the back that I did all the wiring to. You know, I guess that technically there's copper in the spark plug wires, and I didn't do those, so I can't say I did all of the copper in this vehicle. I did install the radiator fan. That wasn't even on this vehicle when I got it. I installed this trinary or tertiary switch, whatever the hell this thing is called, that goes for the AC system. That tells the radiator fan when to turn on. I actually learned a lot while I did this install because I'm not really a big fan of classic cars or really internal combustion engines for that point, but you can see this is my wiring. Those are the plugs right there, and the wiring runs along down there and all up there. Don't ask me what's going on over here. I didn't do that. And that is of course my wiring running across the firewall there and back down there. I actually really like this little junction over here. That is the relay for the radiator fan, and of course all that wiring goes la-di-da right like so. And if we come up inside of the fender well here, that is a horn that I installed. That's just a standard little Wolo horn from Advanced Auto Parts, and then wiring that goes into the headlights and the parking lights. Quick side note about that is I did sell him new headlights. These are the Holley Retrobrights. They give that OEM retro look, but they are actually high performance LED sealed units. I got him new buckets to mount these things, new eyebrows and new shrouds, and then also replaced these guys down here. That's what I did on the front end of the vehicle. If we come around to the back side, we've got the tail lights. Now these right here are actually like OEM tail lights. These were added at some point, but I decided to keep them because you know what, they're already there. And so I added plugs and wired them in as well. And then we've got a license plate illuminating the light right there, showing off all of the nonsense that I didn't use in the stuff that I removed. This is the stuff that was originally in the car, or I should say outside of the car. It is cool that we've got the factory gauges, but unfortunately these could not be retained. There was an aftermarket really cheesy tack in this thing. As far as the headlights were concerned, I only had one side of the headlight. They had bought a replacement light because this other one is actually broken, but the original plugs looked like this, which is absolutely terrible, and this was all rusted. Not to mention just like literally the fact that I only had one side, so I had to buy a pair. So since I had this little eyebrow and this shroud and this bucket, I knew what I needed to order, and that's how I just ordered all the same stuff and got it all new for both sides. I ended up going through all of the old equipment and packaging and paperwork just so I could know what what I was working with, and he still does have this cover thingamabob that goes under the hood, but that's kind of out of my wheelhouse, so I'm not touching it. Let's go around to the inside on the passenger side, and I will show you some of my work here. The battery holder on this side is actually right down here in the floorboards, and I'm quite pleased with the way that I did this setup. This is what it looks like. So we are all properly fused distribution, something that oddly American Autowire does not understand fuse ratings and wire gauges, but I had to ditch all of their fuse distribution and then do my own. So it's all Stinger equipment. We did a new battery terminals, 0 gauge ground just for overkill, why not? On the positive side, there's a 0 gauge to a dual 4 gauge distribution block. That leads to the starter and the alternator. And then also there's a 12 gauge wire that's fused and that feeds the rest of the electronics. Speaking of electronics, we also have this super high quality plastic panel that was provided, so I installed it for these speakers. That is, of course, on both sides, so there's this, wow, you can't even see the speaker over there. It's tucked up there behind the steering column. You can see it sort of, kind of, but there is another speaker on that side. Those things were super cheesy, but whatever, like I said, they were provided, so I installed them. That falls well within the category of electronics. Check it out what happens when we turn the key. We have power, oh my goodness. So this is one of those weird stealth radios. I'm not a huge fan of it, to be honest with you, but it does work, although it's confusing as to how it works. But if we turn that up, look at that. We have radio, oh my God. And then this is how we like tune it, right? You get the idea. This is how it works. We don't actually need to mess with the radio. I did install the Rockford Fosgate Bluetooth module behind that as well, so that you'll be able to pipe in audio off of your phone. The fan control does work on this AC, but that's as much as I'm willing to test because I know that the system is not charged. Moving on over here, this is our little headlight switch, and we pull this one click right here, and that becomes our parking lights. As you can see, we have parking lights that are on. How exciting. This is the parking light circuit on the back. It's just those outer two. If I pull it all the way, now we have headlights. Now I did opt for the pure white output on these Holley Retrobrights, and perhaps that was not a classic interpretation for this vehicle, and maybe I should have stuck with this old school gross yellowy halogen look, but I disagree fundamentally with that. My ultimate objective was just to give this dude some light on the road, since clearly we're not doing a classic restoration on this thing because, I don't know, that's not the factory motor, so let's not keep factory outdated lighting. That's my decision, I'm standing by it. Look at this, we have a turn signal that actually works, and you have an in-dash indicator, which is pretty cool. In case you were curious what a turn signal looks like, this is what it looks like. On the backside, I kind of like the addition of those secondary lights because it makes the turn signal a little bit more prominent. On these old trucks, the turn signals and the brake is the same circuit, so we know what it looks like off. And if I push this brake down, which is really nice because it sticks anyway, so it'll stay down, so the brake is pushed right now, and then you can see what the brake looks like, which is basically all 4 of those lights come on. And then we can unstick this premium vehicle brake pedal, and you'll see that they are off again. Let's see, if we turn on the headlights and then we kick this bad boy down there, that's our high beam. So now we've got a high beam output, and then if I kick it again, you see it just went to a low beam. I don't know if you wanted to see that. And honestly, that's really it. It's a full vehicle wiring harness, and it's a full vehicle wiring harness done correctly. I don't think this truck was properly loved before me, but hopefully it will be loved after me. Whoever gets this truck next and gets it running will be set up for success with the electrical side of things. It did take a lot of time, and it did take a lot of money, but it was brought to me because nobody else knew what to do, and I just took on the project, and I was like, cool, I'll figure it out, and figure it out I did. So big thank you to Luke over at QMAR for providing me with this job and also giving me a lot of help and information throughout the process, because quite honestly, I don't really understand that so much. But I can tell you that all of the wiring to it is done properly now, and I have learned so much through this process, and I really did genuinely enjoy it. So I think that about wraps it up. Pricing and product information that I provided to this client for this build will be in the video description, but honestly, if we're talking about full vehicle wiring harnesses, there's going to be so much variation from vehicle to vehicle. So it's really hard for me to be able to quote jobs like that. So if you're interested in work like this, by all means, be sure to reach out to me. Send me a build request via the form on the website. That link will also be in the video description. That's all for now, folks. This is 13 with Superior Mobile by 13. Thanks for watching. I will talk to you later.